Absolutely phenomenal morning, guys. This is your Breakfast with the Brand. I am your host, Shaan East, as always, flanked by the phenomenal Bobby Jackson. So, listen, today is Friday, so we're gonna cut to the chase, right? We're gonna get straight to the point. How you feeling this morning, Bobby?
Absolutely phenomenal. Hit the gym and hit it hard.
Nice. What did it look like?
Nobody was in there. Nobody was in there this morning.
Big surprise, huh?
Right? You know, Good Friday. It was Good Friday for me. So I hit a circuit and got out there.
Very good. So, guys, this is what we do, right? We do the things that nobody else does. We do the things that nobody else do so that we can have what nobody else has. Like a phenomenal Friday. A lot of people are stressed out today. What is your number? What is your number? Stress meter, stressonometer. What is your number? Do you have a strong pipeline? Is your pipeline full? Do you know? Okay, so what did they say? They said it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? So watch this. It's 7 o'clock. Do you know where your leads are? It's 7 o'clock. Do you know where your next leads are? Do you know what your client pipeline looks like? Do you know where your promotion is? Do you know where your raise is? Do you know where your next revenue is coming from? Do you know where your next clients are coming from? Yes, they call it Good Friday. It could be a Good Friday. I hope it's a Good Friday for you guys. It's a phenomenal Friday for us at the brand. The question is it a phenomenal Friday for you? And if not, I would dare to posit that it is because of the brand. One or the other. Your brand is either on or your brand is off. You know, Bobby, I got a super interesting inquisition the other day. Person asked me why branding. Why is branding important? How do I make money with branding? And my question, my response was, look at Michael Jordan.
Yeah.
Look at Michael Jordan. He was a great player, phenomenal player. But he makes so much more money not playing basketball. Yeah, he makes so much more money not playing basketball because he has created a brand. Right, so what we do is branding like a leader. So we help you to brand yourself like a leader here, to perceive yourself, to change the market's perception of you. And when the market perceives you as a leader, that's when you start to get the windfall. That's when things begin to change. That's when you get a full pipeline. That's when people begin to know your name and wonder what it is that you do. If you don't have a brand, no one cares. No one knows you, and no one cares what you do. It's when you stand out. It's when you differentiate yourself. It's when people say there's something different about this person. I don't know what it is. There's something. There is something. You know, there's another word for it. They call it it factor. It factor. They just say, I don't know. She just has it. She has that it. What is the it that is unquantifiable but tangible? You can feel it. That's the brand. That's the brand. And that's what we'll be talking about today on this phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal and good Friday. Let's grow. We'll be right back. There's slow growth and then there's scale. There's incremental growth and then there's exponential growth. What I want to talk to you about is adding a zero to you and experiencing exponential scale. Incremental growth says 1 + 1 is 2. Exponential growth says 1 + 0 is 10. Incremental growth says 2 + 2 is 4. Exponential growth says 5 + 0 is 50. Guys, listen, when you add a zero to you, you can add a zero to the marketplace. You can add a zero to the value that you bring. So you can add a zero to your family, add a zero to your legacy. This is what we're talking about. We're not talking about incremental, we're talking about exponential. I always say that business is a spiritual game. Just imagine when you combine your skills, your values, your abilities, your talents to something bigger than you, something greater than you, something like the power of exponential. That is adding a zero. Add a zero to your competence. Add a zero to your confidence. This is about adding a zero in your life, your value, your industry, and your mission. Let's grow. The reason why I did this and what I do is help leaders to become brands and brand themselves. You train people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. I teach authenticity marketing. If people can take advantage of you, they will in your personal or professional existence.
My biggest takeaway just from day one is you are the brand. I would recommend it to anybody that's really looking to build a personal brand.
Just the brand in general has changed my life. I've grown so much since I've been a part of this.
I see myself in what he does, and I believe in it just as much as I believe in myself.
Branding. Personal branding. Why is it so important? How does it add a zero? People always say, Shaan, I want to make money. I want to add a zero to my revenue. I want to monetize. And what I tell people is you want to branditize. Right? People say, I want to monetize. I say, you want to branditize. They say, I want to add a zero. I said, great. Let's add a zero to you first. Before you can add a zero to your revenue, you have to add a zero to you. You have to be the person. You have to be magnetic. You have to have a draw. If you've ever been fishing, the strength of your line and lure is the brand. The strength of your line and your lure is the brand. You can have the best bait, like you can be the best person in the world at what you do. You can be great, education, experience, and expertise. There's so many great people that never made any kind of mark in business. They had the brilliant minds, no revenue. There are some people that added super value into the marketplace, still no revenue, died poor. Or there's artists that died unknown, took their art to the grave with them, took their business model, their great innovations to the grave with them because they didn't understand how to become or build a brand. Everybody talks about what they do. But watch this. When you talk about what you do, you put yourself in a crowded sea with everybody who does what you do. So coaches, speakers, consultants, take note. It's not about what you do. It's about who you are that makes you different. That's why everybody that you care about, everybody that you know, everybody that you follow, you know their story. You know where they came from. We call that the origin brand story.
When I think about brands and I think about brand development and things like that, I like to think about the work, because the work that you do behind the scenes creates the brand that everybody sees. And that's why I think it's so interesting, because your brand will tell on you. It'll tell you what you're doing, or it'll tell the world what you're doing and what you're not doing. I was watching a clip yesterday, and one of the guys said, if you want to be a master at your craft, you need to be working on this thing 8 to 12 hours a day. He's like, if you're not doing that much work on your craft, then you're probably not trying to be the best at it. And what's interesting about someone with a brand is you can tell how many hours they worked on their craft without knowing when they worked on the craft. Said another way, you can tell someone that's 10 years into what they've been doing versus someone that just started out. So as I tie my piece down and about the brand development, I would say, what are you doing that no one sees that's building the brand behind the scenes? because that's the infrastructure. That's what the brand stands on. That's all of the stuff that cost me so much. Like I tried to build my brand on sand and it failed. And then I had to go back and build it on land. And when I built the brand on land, and when I got deep into some things that needed to be dealt with, what I found was that I'm a pretty cool guy, a pretty strong individual. And you'll find the same thing inside of yourself as you go deeper and start unpacking this thing. So I think that the brand is the beginning of profitability and monetization.
1000%. 1000%. So what you want to do, right? And we have an acronym for it. VCP. VCP. And it stands for visibility first. Let's just talk about the visibility. If you're invisible, you'll never be invincible. If no one knows who you are, they'll never pay you. They don't know you exist. I tell people all the time, like people are eating your food right now. Like there's somebody eating your food right now because you're invisible. You're not visible. So when you increase visibility, what happens naturally if you're really the person, right? So you have to really be the person and go from visible or visibility to credibility. Once people see you, they kind of dig into you. They start to put you under the microscope. They start to watch you. They start to follow you. They start to hear you in the marketplace, and then they read you. And if you're authentic, you become transparent. If you do it the way we teach it, then you'll be transparent and you'll be like an open book. Because you want people to know who you are. You want people to know what you're about, what you stand for. That's why they call it. Okay, so marketing, when you hear marketing, you hear marketing campaign. So think about politicians. A politician running for office is a campaign. You running for someone else's business is a campaign. So what do politicians do? They make themselves known to the people. They come out. They go on tour. They speak to the people. They literally go on a campaign from town to town to town to town. So when people are not going from the virtual town to town to town to town, if you watch me, you know I'm always town to town to town to town. I'm everywhere. I'm looking at I'm in my office and I'm looking at my calendar in front of me. I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 days, 6 places that I'm going. Just April. Just 12 flights. I'm on a campaign. I'm on a campaign to help people build their brand and go from invisible to invincible. But if you're not moving and shaking, if you're not shaking and moving, you don't know where your next money's coming from. You got to create a brand presence to create a movement. So you go from invisible to visible, and we go from visibility to credibility. Now you're in rooms, people know you. I was speaking to a gentleman yesterday I met in a room, and he said, Shaan, you're everywhere. I see you everywhere. I see you with this one, I see you with that one, I see you with this one, I see you with that one. When do you relax? I say I'm always relaxed. I'm always calm. I'm always poised. I'm always confident. And I always know where I'm going next. Because so watch this, guys. When you're moving, opportunity for you to move comes to you. I always say that money follows movement. Why? Because if no one knows you exist, they don't care what you do. They don't know you. So someone's eating your food. Visibility to credibility. Once you get in the room and you shake someone's hand and you look them in the eye, there's a difference. Oh, I've gone in rooms and been called the breakfast with the brand. I've gone in rooms and people have looked at me and said, the breakfast with the, they looked at me like I knew who they were. And I'm like, not there. And they say, the breakfast with the brand. And I'm like, okay. You know me. You've seen me. What's going on? Matter of fact, I was just in a room where a person looked at me and said, you were in the military. I said, no, I wasn't in the military. She said, but you had to be, because she was in the military. She thought she knew me from there. And I said, no, you don't know me from there. This has happened with people from Dubai. I know you. Where do I know you from? I've seen you. Oh, you've probably seen me online. The breakfast with the brand. Consistency. Consistency plus intensity equals invincibility, guys. You want to go from visibility to credibility, Most people are trying to put the P in front of the V. Most people are trying to put the P in front of the V. The only time the P goes in front of the V is in the alphabet. But realistically, the visibility goes before the profitability. And in the middle, you have to establish credibility. You have to really be the person. And most of you really are the person. But the problem is you don't have enough visibility. Nobody knows that you exist. So your education, experience, and expertise is being buried, or even worse, commoditized or commercialized by someone else. And they're getting the profitability. They're getting the impact, the income, and the independence from your education, experience, and expertise. The missing link is your personal brand.
I think that this is so powerful because I've been pointed out as an individual on Breakfast with the Brand from people that know the brand. Very interesting. They'll be like, "Are you the military guy that does the Breakfast with the Brand?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's me." And I just thought that that was very interesting because it's also a matter, in my experience, of proper alignment. Are you aligned with the right brands? And Shaan was talking about this week as far as brand association. It's like, you're not going to find me with somebody that's suspect. That's what he was saying. He's like, the brand that I associate with is a brand that you can respect and that you can put some trust into. So as we build our brands, I think one of the best things we can do is get around reputable brands that other people know. Because what that does is it elevates your own brand just for you to be able to get in the room. I remember that this clip, there was a guy who was talking about how he hired his photographer. Very short story and a very interesting story about association, proximity, and branding. So one of the individuals is a well-known name. You probably know him. I won't use his name, but he's a big name guy. And he was overseas driving around in one of his nice Bugattis, Maseratis, or something like that. And then there was this 17-year-old kid who said, "Hey, can I take a picture of your car and email it to you?" The guy who owned the car was like, "Man, I have pictures of this car." He said, "No problem at all. Is it okay if I take a picture of the car and mail it to you?" 17-year-old kid. The guy said, "Sure, take a picture of the car. You can email it to me." After he takes the picture of the car, guy gives him the email. He asked him, he's like, "Yo, you're 17 years old. Like, why don't you go to college or something like that? Like, why don't you go and make something of yourself outside of taking pictures of rich people's cars?" The guy said, "Here's my strategy. If I take a picture of enough rich people's cars and I get their emails, I got an email list full of rich people." And he was like, "All I'm trying to do is get close enough." And the guy laughed and said, "How would you like to take pictures for me on a more consistent basis?" And he got the job. And I say that to say this. That's brand alignment. He was like, the guy knew where he was trying to go. And he was going to be a picture taker for rich people's cars. And then there was a guy that was rich and had a car. And boom, because one person was on brand and the other person was on brand and the brands came together, they expanded. And that's sometimes what you want to do when you're building your brand and establishing yourself.
People don't, nobody wants to serve, I think, Bobby. I think that's really the problem. Like, people don't want to serve. Everybody wants to be like number one from the gate. They don't want to run the race. They don't want the endurance piece. Like the proving self, like the proving ground, Aberdeen proving ground. Like, the people don't want that. They just want the microwave success. They want to see what they see on TikTok, right? But watch this. That's not real. That's not real. Nobody shows like the hard times. Like, you don't get the flicks. I remember, Bobby, I did this for so long. I remember my first videos. Where do you think I went live first? Put it in the chat, guys. Where do you think Shaan Wright East went live first? Where do you think I went live first? Everybody knows we did what we did on where we did it. But what do you think? Put it in the chat. Where do you think Shaan Wright East went live the very first time? And what do you think, Bobby?
I don't even know if MySpace had a live, but I'm going to think it was something like maybe MySpace.
And great thought, right? But watch this. I was so nope. Makes sense. It would seem to make sense, right? Facebook, we went live on Facebook, did 450 in less than 90. It sounds like it would make sense. I first went live on Twitter because I had no clue what I was doing. I had no clue what I was doing. So I first went live on Twitter. I want you guys to understand, like, you're not going to know what you're doing, but you're going to have to do it anyway. And you're not going to feel comfortable, and you're not going to be confident, and you're not going to be competent either, but you have to do it anyway. Why? Because that's the building of the brand. You got to go through the process to develop yourself. And if you don't go through the process of the development of yourself, then you're never going to mature your brand. So the quicker you get started, the faster it's going to happen. And the more money and the more time that you can pour into it, the faster it's going to happen. The more committed you are, the more dedicated, those become your table legs for your brand. So everybody knows Tony Robbins. Everybody knows Tony Robbins. Everybody loves Tony Robbins. Okay, great. Great guy. But watch this. He supported Jim Rohn's brand, the brand alignment piece that Bobby was talking about. Before everybody knew him as that person, the face of life coaching, before he became that transformative brand, he supported a transformative brand. So what Bobby said is evidence-based, because everybody that you know, most people don't even know about Nightingale and Conant, the brand. Nightingale and Conant, but Earl Nightingale, many people would call like the father of the whole personal and professional development industry. Everybody came from Nightingale and Conant. Brian Tracy, Bob Proctor, Les Brown. Everybody came out of Nightingale and Conant. Like, you got to know where you come from, and you got to understand, like, these people worked to understand what it took to become who they supported. And from the learning process, they began to pick up the keys and the tools and the instruments. And then they became visible. And your background is what makes you credible. But if nobody knows that you exist and they don't see you, they can't get to know you if you're closed and you're private and you don't let people know, hey, I'm just a kid from Harlem who God chose to show his favor and mercy through. If you open your mouth and you don't have a story, or if you present a story and you don't have a background, you don't have a pedigree, then you'll never get the profitability. Oh, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I know my history. And what do they say? If you don't know your history, you don't know your present, and you have no clue what you're trying to do or where you're trying to go. Right? So what we have is a bunch of teeny boppers in branding or in business trying to skip adolescence. They're trying to skip from the first grade to the Mercedes-Benz and being a doctor and calling themselves professionals. But you got to understand, it's the tenure. It's the process that matures you. It's like fine wine. So I just want to put that out there, Bobby, and you can pick this up, right? I know people are hearing what I'm saying, but I hope that they're really understanding, like, you get an internship and a job so that you can develop yourself.
Yeah. You know, this has got me thinking about bandwidth, because I remember when you come into the military, you can only, there's so much to know. And I'm going to use this analogy because it's the same in entrepreneurship. There's so much to know about business when you get into entrepreneurship. Like, you got to learn the marketing piece. You got to be at least competent. Marketing, sales, the basic operations of your business, finance, accounting, some tax, like bookkeeping, like all this stuff has to get done. And if it does not get done and you can't afford to pay someone to do it, then, you know, you're hit. You're in a bad spot. So the thing that I think is so important about interning and about learning from someone that is crushing it is that you get to specialize in the midst of the chaos. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if I'm coming into a battlefield and I am under a general. The general knows everything that's going on the battlefield. And then they have their various lieutenants and all of these people that are telling me to do my one job. My one job might be suppression fire. Very simple. One job, hold a line. And a lot of times in business, we don't humble ourselves enough to do one job. We want to do everything all the time. And we want to do it first, right? And like no one to help us. And what we find ourselves doing is we find ourselves not laying the suppression fire well, meaning getting the revenue good. We find ourselves not knowing what we should know. So we're bringing people onto the team that are a bad fit, and we're spending money trying to get something, but they're not giving us what we need because we haven't spent enough time learning the various ins and outs to know what we're evaluating. In other words, how many people have paid for something and didn't get what you paid for in your business? Maybe you paid for consulting and get what you expected, or you paid for coaching, or you paid for a course, or you went through it. Not saying it was a bad investment, just saying that if you didn't know what you were looking for, you didn't have enough experience in the process, you might not have been able to leverage what you were exposed to or what you got access to. And it's such an interesting experience. So for me, you know, as I turn it back to Shaan, I think that one of the best things that I was able to do was get an opportunity to focus on one thing, get really good at that one thing while learning the nuances of business.
You know, it's so funny. It's so funny because I look at the fast forward generation, the microwave generation, and I just laugh, right? I laugh, but it's also sad because they're going to harm someone. Like microwave food, it's finished fast, but it's not the best for you. Fast food, you can drive through and get it fast and cheap, but it's not sustainable. It'll do you terribly in the long term. So when I hear people talk about personal branding, and it's like branding what, branding who, branding how, they just heard that people were making money talking about branding, so why not branding? It makes sense. To someone who's just looking at the appearance of it, makes sense. But when you unpack it and you go deep into it, what we do here, let me use myself as an example. So what we do here is called branded like a leader. The leadership becomes the brand. The leadership, you as the leader, leveraging your education, experience, and expertise. That's what Bobby means when he said it's founded on land, bedrock, sediment, as opposed to sand. It's founded on a foundation. If you say that you are a brand, you're right. But if you don't have the internal consistency, why? What makes you a brand? Not just the fact that you were born. What value do you provide as a brand? What constitutes the value? What's the transactional value? You see, when someone spends $100 with you, the goal is to give them $1,000 back in value. And if you just say, I'm a brand, spend $1,000 with me so I can spend time with you, what takes place during the time? What is transferred? What is the value that constitutes the ask? That's what I want you to think about during this break. What is the value that constitutes the ask? What have you spent years and years developing yourself to be able to provide? What is the unquantifiable essence? See, this is why people would rather spend $50,000 to have a meal with someone who has established something than they would to just get $50,000 that's going to leave because they don't know what to do with it. It's very important that you know yourself to the highest degree possible, because it's through knowing ourselves that we're able to know other people. You are the most important person in the room, and the better that you know yourself, the better that you're able to communicate to others. So you're not only playing the game knowing who you are, but you're also playing the game knowing who everyone else is, so that you're not playing blind.
extremely engaging with people. He has a fantastic smile, and he's just very high energy person.
This is called leadership development. So we have to be independently knowledgeable and considerate to know who we are so we can more effectively know who other people are. As the leader, it's your responsibility to allocate resources in the right places. If you don't know how to communicate effectively, you're losing the battle. When I think of brand you, I think of being your best self, your most authentic. The reason why we were able to crush business, absolutely dominate in business without having the marketing list, without having the email huge list, without having the Facebook ads and the advertising budget, without knowing the algorithm. The reason we were able to do this is because I branded myself. I told my authentic story and I was comfortable in my skin. Why? Because it was that time in the world where everything was shifting. It was 2020, March. So you remember what happened during that time. It was like the world was coming to an end. So you didn't have anything to hold back. So I chose to give everything that I had and be everything that I am. And because I was that, because I branded me, because I was authentic, everything shifted. And people wanted more. And they wanted to know more about me and how they could become more comfortable in their skin. Listen, guys, when you brand you and not what you do, you're gonna add a 0 to the world, but you'll also add a 0 to your revenue. Let's grow. I said Shaan Ride East. I'm proud. That's Shaan Ride East. Leadership is not the brand they made for us.
Listen, he brought fire, heat. He didn't hold back.
20 years down the line, what I could sell, why not serve first? Service over salary. Branding like a leader closes the gap for people who want branding. Speaking like a leader closes the gap for people who are nervous about speaking. If Steve Jobs would have speculated, we wouldn't have Apple.
He changed lives. He helped people open up their business and start their business.
We are the brand. Some people say, Shaan, should I quit my job? Mentally, yes.
As a speaker too, to be able to learn from him and watch him and you know, game respects game. And I want to have that much game someday.
The right client, pay $500,000 for what you do. You have to be bold in your beliefs.
He has been an amazing asset to this event and a pleasure to work with. Very captivating, collaborative, worked very well with the audience.
I want to help you. Put a 0 behind your number, right?
The session was great. How he is online, virtually, he is even more phenomenal in person.
Be the face of change that you want to see. Stop asking questions and start giving demands.
The entire team has just been absolutely incredible. They are a joy to work with. They go above and beyond.
Give yourself a round of applause. Yes, yes, yes. All right, so the reason I left this up is because it's very important, very, very pertinent. Thank you. This is a phenomenal comment. Many people are being victimized right now on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere by the bait and switch. What it really is about is what it says, right? It's about finding people who operate with integrity when you consult or partner with others. So you want to find people who have something of substance, something substantial. And you want to take time to explore how their values show up in the marketplace. So I'm going to use what we do as an example, right? How their values show up in the marketplace. So anyone who knows what we do, it's leadership. It's leadership. The value is leadership. The goal is leadership. The opportunity is leadership. The need, the highest quantifiable need right now on this planet, in any business at all, in any organization, in any school, in any district, in all the politics, no matter where you stand, leadership is what's needed, and leadership is the biggest gap. So I have taken it upon myself to go deep into leadership because where I grew up, there was very few and far in between representatives and role models alive. We had leaders, but they were not present. And the ones that were present were not the most positive. So I took it upon myself to do 10 plus years of heavy education, heavy dedication, heavy devotion, sleepless nights to be able to become and then provide that leadership piece to people who needed it the most, had the most to give, but they didn't understand what it was or how to become it. So that's where Branded Like a Leader came from. And that's where the education came from. And that's where the books came from. That's where the brand came from. That's the origin of the brand. That's the purpose of it. That's the determining value of it. It was the value of recognizing that to say, okay, I've got to go in here for 10 years plus to learn this, to be able to provide it to others. And that's what's on the back end of a program like Branded Like a Leader or Leadership Leverage. And it has recompensed very well. But I want you to understand, it's not about the last 90 days or what you saw as the first 90 days going live on Facebook. No, the first 90 days going live on Facebook was based on a precursor to or post 10 years of heavy level education and experience and expertise and working and applying and learning and iterating. That's where it came from. So when these pop-up shops, when these lemonade stands come about from someone who heard something, saw something, and then want to become something, many times the desire is a noble one. You want to do more for your family. You want to have more for your family. You want to be able to add value. What you really want to do, though, is you want to take a microscope and you want to put it inside of yourself to pull out of yourself that which you really are. You don't just want to brand yourself prematurely, because if you do that, when people look inside of you, there's nothing of value.
Wow. Wow. When I think about brand equity and I think about how deep this goes, I think it also is encouraging. So for me, I remember going through the brand origin story, and I remember you saying, until you've cried over your dream, your vision, it's not really real yet. It's becoming, it's getting realer and realer. And I remember driving and then having that Michael Jordan tear, those that saw the meme, just that one tear just fall. And I'm like, wait a minute, it's real now for me. It's real now. And I think that's a part of the authenticity marketing that Shaan has always been talking about, is like, how real is your marketing? How authentic is your marketing? And I think marketing can only be, if you're in the personal branding space, as authentic as you are with yourself. And not to go too deep in this, but I think that's something that we're struggling with as a nation, is being honest with ourselves. Like we're wearing masks everywhere, and the pandemic is over.
Woo!
Wearing masks everywhere, though. It's like we don't know who's who. We just know who that person is supposed to be when they're in that arena. And as we're shifting arenas, shifting apps from LinkedIn, like, really think about how crazy this is. Sometimes people will wear a mask on LinkedIn, a mask on Facebook, a mask on Twitter, and a mask on YouTube. Have all 4 different accounts and be 4 different people. And then wondering why the business isn't working or why things aren't really taking off. And it's because, in my experience at least, there is a depth to you. And as I tie my thought off, I learned that I had to let more things go that were not me to get to the real me than I had to add things to myself and to my self-image that I thought were me. Simply put, you are who you are, and you just need to figure out who that is. And it's often a matter of subtraction and not addition.
Wow. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. What he said. Right. But watch this. Why do some brands exist on TikTok solely? Why do some brands exist on Instagram, but not on LinkedIn? Yes. Right? Why do some brands, why can some brands only do reels as opposed to a mini documentary or something that takes 15 minutes? Because they run out of content. They don't really have anything to say. They don't really have anything to say. And we've become so salacious in our marketing. We've watered ourselves down. We've cheapened ourselves to such a degree in branding and in business that sometimes it's almost hideous and grotesque. The values piece, the ethics, the self-dignity and the integrity, the moral compasses, the bar just gets lower and lower and lower, where you really see people trying anything and everything to make a dollar. You know, there was something that I said to myself as a father, as a husband, and as a man, so that I could provide value, to really be ethical in the marketplace. The first thing that I said to myself, Bobby, was I'm going to put $250,000 here before I ask for $1 out of the marketplace. I'm going to put $250,000 here in competencies, in skills, learned and tried and tested and proven true skills. And I tried and tested those in the consultancy space and within the organizational space for Fortune 500 companies doing executive coaching before coaching was a thing. And I got 1 master's degree. I remember when I got my first bachelor's degree, and my mother was so proud, and she was like, "Oh, Shaan, now you can go." And I said, "No, I can't. I got to get a master's degree." And then I got the first master's degree, and she was like, "Oh, Shaan, great, you did it, and now you can go." And I said, "Nope, I'm sorry, it's not enough. I need more. I need more. I need more." I always feel like I need more to provide more, because we are not your nickel and dime store. We charge a serious fee. So in order to charge a serious fee, it has to be backed up by serious quantifiable value that's evidence-based, research tested, and science proven. It can't just be a hustle or a TikTok video and a talking head in a box. Like, it has to be a real tangible value exchange that is sustainable once provided. So watch this. And I can remember when one of my first business models was personal fitness and nutritional specialist. That's a certification, seriously, that I have, and a competency that I have. The job of a trainer, the personal trainer, is to see gaps, make you uncomfortable, and help you to get to your desired end, whether that's building muscle, losing fat, or whatever the case may be. And the person may want to just build muscle and get huge, fast, from ego. But the trainer, from an ethical place, has to say, or at least chooses to say, do it this way so you don't hurt yourself. And so that you live longer, because there's the quick fix. You can always just say, here, go get some steroids and you're going to buff up real quick. But you're also going to fizzle out real quick too, and it's not sustainable. And I could charge a ton of money to work with someone and do them wrong, or I could charge less and help them to live longer, live stronger, and have a more valuable, more healthy life. Which one is more valuable? That's the question that I want you to ask yourself. Which one is more valuable? Which one is more ethical? Which one is more sustainable? And that's the pricing model. That's the pricing model that you should have. So when I say add a zero, you should be able to add a zero to your pricing model to raise your prices. But you also want to become the hero to someone else's story so that they can then become the hero of their life and of their business. And provide them with something that's sustainable and multiple. It can become a multiple, right? So when they give you something like what, 5K, 10K, they can go out and get 50K, 100K. And they can't do it if you don't have a serious competency other than just what branding is or what branding means. Because you could find that on the dictionary. You could find that in a dictionary. You could Google that. But you shouldn't be able to just Google the value that you provide. Because the value that you provide, that's the personal brand. That's the personal touch. That's the exchange.
Mm-hmm. This is taking me deep into my own business. You know, we did the 400% revenue growth, and we did it again and again and again. And it's like, how do you do 4,000? Like, that's what came to my mind. Like, how do I do 4,000? And as I thought about my brand, and as I thought about how I've developed over the years, it struck me, it was like, maybe you should learn some more things. Maybe you should increase your capacity to do the thing that you specialize. Maybe you should specialize more. And as all of this came to my mind and I'm writing these things down, I'm like, okay, I have a very interesting, and by I mean you, most of you all are in the same situation as me. You have a opportunity to make a decision and focus on that decision and say you're going to be the best that you can be at this one thing, or you can keep trying to grow with your current knowledge base. So to me, I wrote down my decision. I said, you know what? I'm going to keep growing, but I'm going to specialize. That's what I'm going to do. So as I think about my brand and I think about specialization and I think about Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, like those are people that I really enjoy. I say, what was he a specialist at? Getting to the hole, slamming the ball. So I ask you this question. What are you going to be a specialist at? Like, what are you going to do better than anybody else on the planet in your vertical? And if you can dedicate your life, your time, and your mind to that, I believe you're going to get the brand that can undergird the vision. And that's what I saw in my military experience. That's what I see in the various people that I respect. And that's what I wrote down today, because we all have a decision and an opportunity, if we're listening to this call right now, to say, am I going to keep doing what I've been doing with the knowledge that I have? Or am I going to double down, specialize, and take it deeper?
And if you don't take it deeper, then you're just going to be a knockoff. You're going to be going wide. You're going to try to do everything you can to make money. And it becomes so salacious and so undervalued. Like, we undervalue ourselves. And if you look at brands right now, if you look at the news and you look at what's going on with brands now, like huge, big brands, I don't want to say any names, draw your own conclusions. If you look at huge, big brands now and what they're going through legally and socially and ethically, you never want to sell yourself or sell your ethics for success. Because you might make some fast money. You might make a whole bunch of fast money. But you're going to leave bodies in the background of what you do. And you will not get away with it. Like, it will come to pass where the truth is revealed and you're brought to justice, whether that's legally, morally, whether that's socially, whether that's being scandalized or whatever the case may be. You just want to make sure that when you're building your business, you're building it on something that's founded, something that's solid, something that's ethical, so that you can really believe in and know that you're doing it right. That's how you're able to be 100% with anything and super authentic in your skin and comfortable in your skin, knowing that you're doing the right thing. That's how you can charge the prices that you charge, ethically and confidently. We call it saying it with your chest. Not being ego driven, but being ethics driven, having something that's going to benefit not only the person that you're providing the value to, but to the world once they get it or once they become it. What's the value exchange and what is the change that's taking place in the world because your personal brand exists in the first place? And how do you enhance the lives and businesses of others as opposed to just being swiping up? Think about why you came and think about what you're doing business and think about the end result. Think about the the ethics piece that is missing so much in business. And you know, it's sad. It's sad when you see the big brands get scandalized and broken in half because, you know, and we don't know it, we believe in it, we like it, we love it, we invest money into it, and it becomes the story of a generation. Like there was a time, guys, like we're living in an era right now where people are able to use their phone, set their price and make their mark, make their money and make their mark. Don't let it be a terrible era. Don't let it be a terrible era, and don't you contribute to the horrendous, grotesque reality that some people are being a part of. Because the rabbit hole goes real deep. And when the bodies are unburied, you don't want to have any part in it. This is the Breakfast with the Brand. We want you to be ethical. We want you to be leaders. We want you to be able to look at yourself in the mirror too and raise your children on good money, because all money is not green, as some people are finding out. Let's grow. Tomorrow, 8 a.m., the Breakfast with the Brand. I stand on this. I stand on this. And leadership is the foundation. Leadership is the bedrock. Leadership is the bedrock. When I say brand you, not what you do, I say and I mean brand yourself as a leader in a specific value or trade and exchange of value that makes a difference in the world, not because you're trying to make a dollar. Let's grow.